our time. I would consider it the Greetings, tribe, and welcome home. I'm Christina, and this is our very first session of Hacking Consciousness. I'm really grateful that you're here with me today. I'm really excited about our upcoming adventures together and our experiences and experiments in consciousness and spirituality and how they're related. They seem like they're in opposition, and yet science is now really coming to understand the things that the ancient people knew all along and were trying to express in their own way. So I came to a very deep spiritual life through neuroscience. That's where it began for me. I will be naming off some of the artists that I enjoy, some of the gurus and teachers and knowledgeable wisdom seekers that I have come to learn from and that I would like to share with you. I'm no expert in anything. The Buddha said we should begin with a beginner's mind, no mind. And I try to be there in my life. All of this is a brand new expression of my selfness and my spiritual life. And I'm happy that you're here to join me for it. So we'll walk together a little way and see what we can find out about consciousness, about spirituality, about meditation, which, by the way, meditation, the word started being used in the 60s. It was coined kind of with the hippies. And all it means is to become familiar with. And so meditation is becoming familiar with the self. Neuroscience has taught us now recently that our nervous system is in direct connection with our thoughts and our feelings. And so the way we think about and experience the world directly affects the state of our body. We'll talk more about these things as we go. And as I began to understand them and I began to apply these principles and began to learn from various places, from science to philosophy to religion to spirituality of many kinds, I began to expand. My heart began to open, my mind began to widen, my spiritual life deepened. So one of the things that we can do to begin to bring the sacred into every day is to create a sacred space. For me, I have what I call a puja table. This is my puja table. You see me looking down, I have a monitor here because I want to make sure that you guys can see everything as I go along. So my puja table changes over time. I have different elements that I keep on the table, and these elements are symbols. They're to remind me to keep my awareness focused on the things that I'm trying to stay focused on in my life, whether it's my spiritual life, my life in the world with my work, my interactions with people, with the universe. And so each thing is a symbol. And we can use anything as a symbol. You'll see part of what I use are stones. And those stones are symbols of certain things as well as having their own inherent elemental energies, we'll say. Because everything is energy, everything is frequency. Everything at the atomic level and below is just densities of energies. Nothing's really solid at all. We'll talk more about that as we get into some of the science. I'm very excited. So I'll begin. The first element I'm going to add to my puja table is my Buddha. Now I want to say right now that I'm not a Buddhist, I'm not a Christian, I'm not anything there's a name for. I'm actually kind of spoiled because I take from every different religion and spirituality and wisdom, science, whatever I can find out there. I look for the wisdom in it. I take it and I make it my own. Our spiritual life should be our own. We should use whatever wisdom we can find that works for us to bring that into our lives. That's what it means to have one-on-one communication in the spiritual self, right? So Buddha is one of my favorites. Buddha was a master scientist at consciousness. And some of the things that he discovered and developed and discussed were profoundly life-changing things for me. I was not aware when I started getting into neuroscience that it was going to lead me straight to the Buddha. We'll get more into that as time goes by. My Buddha, I have a lot of respect for and love for it. Just because it's a symbol, just because it may be made out of plastic or this is metal, whatever it is. I have love for it, right? This is my sacred and respect at the center. Because consciousness is this realm, human consciousness, and how it ends suffering. And so I pray respect for the Buddha. The next thing that goes on this little ensemble is the Sacred Heart. And this is kind of my representation of, you could say, even the Sacred Heart of Jesus, my symbol for that heart chakra there, right? The next element I'll put on my table, and nothing's in any particular order. Some people do get very specific and particular about their sacred spaces, and that's wonderful. Each person should have their own spiritual life, and they should develop in ways that they feel moved to develop, whatever their spiritual discernment tells them. Maybe over time we'll develop our puja table together. You can give me some ideas of what you would like to see here, and we'll discuss what those elements mean to us. So the next one I'll add then is Hotei. And Hotei is also one of the Buddhas. There's more than one, I discovered that too. So Hotei is considered the laughing Buddha. And I love Hotei because it reminds me of gratitude. When you're in gratitude, it's a state of joy, it's a state of receiving. I have so much to be grateful for, and I love my life, and I laugh at myself quite a bit. So Hotei is an excellent reminder for me to keep the heart open and light, right? To let it go, let it go. Okay, so then the next element I have is my Ganesha. And I like Ganesha here because I'm a scholar. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to learn from great wisdom, and Ganesha reminds me to continue that, to continue with an open mind and to learn from great teachers and wise masters, whether they be scientists, philosophers, or historical beings. Then I have my Moon Mother. And that's to remind myself that I am informed, and informed I am a woman. And that energy, subtle energies, not just in women, because we all have the great feminine within us, just like we all have the great father within us. The male and female aspects of our energies, right, are in balance and in harmony. But I have to remember that in form I am a woman, and that has its own special attributes, just like maleness has its own special attributes. But again, that doesn't mean that both aspects are not fully and equally within us all. Then I have my Death Masters. Now, it may seem to some to be macabre. However, death is as sacred as birth. It is the end for all living beings. And it's what makes life so sacred. If there were no death, then this life would have much less meaning. If there were no change, if all things did not end, they would not be so precious to us. And we all have a limited time here. I went through an experience once during meditation, the experience of my death. I went long at a time, kind of like Gandalf did when he fell, only I wasn't fighting a monster outside of me. I was fighting the monsters within me. And then I realized that it didn't exist. It was fear. It was fear of loss, fear of change. And then I just realized that everything is going to change. I'm going to change and die. All the people I know and love. The world will change. Mountains will rise and fall. It's this whole process, the rising and falling of life. Life arises and it falls like waves crashing in the ocean. But each wave, although individuated and never to be repeated again, is a part of the great ocean of life. And I found myself in gratitude just for the experience of having lived. And then I came back, the meditation ended, and I had a new realization about my life. I am in much deeper gratitude every day for every little thing. Even hot and cold running water sometimes spectacularly lovely. So gratitude, it changes the way I experience the world. gratitude for the passage of life and change. Other elements that I have more personal meaning. This box contains one of two of these little yin-yangs. Yin-yan, however you pronounce it. The Chinese and the Tibetans pronounce it slightly differently. This reminds me of the duality of life. That all things change, passing from one side to the other. There have been beings in this world that I loved and was moved very deeply by who have passed to the other side. There are many beings here now on this side that I love and am moved very deeply by. And one day each one of us will pass through that same veil. And so I can't deny the presence or grace of either side, right? Because my selfness, that which I love, is within the entire universe, and the entire structure of everything, and that includes life and death. This box contains small things, gifts that I've been given, things that have personal meaning and value to me, that are just from my own memories. And so I keep them in their little box, but they're sacred to me, and so they're placed on my table. These jars are never opened. They're representations, although they do contain rose water. These are hand-plucked roses. The water is blessed, purified, charged, and placed in the sealed jars. This is to keep me in mind of the healer. Those who have healed me, those whom I may be able to help heal themselves. May we all heal together. And that's the process of all of this, right? Is healing, coming back into union, yoga with the self. And so these are my healer jars. I have small jars. One contains sea salt. The other contains some sacred herbs. I keep them here to remind me about keeping focus on making sure that my mind is pure of the things that I don't want in there. What you let in your mind stays there. And so I have to be careful about the thoughts that I grow, the thoughts that I allow to stay, and the thoughts that I feed, as well as the emotions that I grow and feed and allow to continue. Although our emotions must have their moment to arise and express themselves in the body, they must be also allowed to be released and pass away. We're not meant to hold on to these things. They're the experience of our life, the content, but not the context. It also reminds me to keep my body purified, and that's not always so easy to do in the world. I don't always eat the best foods. I don't always do the best things that we could. It's sometimes difficult to not drive when you have places to go, right? We all have to live in the calming and modern world. But we can remind ourselves daily to do the little things that we can, to eat our fruits and vegetables, right? To take time out, to have calm, peaceful moments, to bring the sacred into our daily lives. And so this is a simple representation of my puja table. I keep this pan here, it's cast iron, and this is for when I want to burn incense perhaps, or sage for purification as well. And as we go on, we'll discuss some of the different elements that can be used with your sacred spaces. Different types of incense, resins, things like sage, what they're traditionally used for and by whom. There's a lot to explore, many different topics to discuss, and I really look forward to sharing more time with you. I hope you've enjoyed this little discussion about how to bring the sacred into the everyday. Until next time, my friends, namaste. That which is divine within me acknowledges and bows to that which is divine